I was Marshall Mathers. Now I'm just a shell of who I used to be.
Eminem is going into retirement from rap. In this video, we cover the video and see why he is officially walking away and leaving rap behind him. Stay tuned until the end, you're gonna want to hear this. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you are unaware, we're doing a giveaway.
Yeah, I wanted to pull back from the spotlight for a little while, you know, just I guess kind of reassess my whole career.
A simple reminder on how to enter our brand new giveaway. We will be giving away either an iPhone X Max, the new iPad mini, or a MacBook Pro. It's really your choice. So be sure to leave a like, comment the keyword, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter the giveaway. It's really that simple. Go for it.
Why is Eminem quitting rap? When is it the right time to stop? This is a question that honestly has dominated celebrity life for many decades. From movie stars to sports athletes to musicians and beyond. Some feel the urge to keep going until they literally can't do it anymore. Or as Patrick Ewing once said, I want them to carry me off the court. The wise ones though see when they're on top or still on top after a long time and realize that it's time to step back and appreciate what you have and have gotten and thus step back or straight up step out. So which one of these is Eminem? Ironically, a little bit of both, because before August of 2018, the time before he released his hit album Kamikaze, a lot of people were wondering if Eminem had anything left to give. His last few albums, especially Revival, wasn't very well received, so it seemed as though Eminem needed to be put out of pasture, if you get my drift. But then Kamikaze came out and it was like a revelation of sorts. Suddenly, Eminem wasn't only back, but he was back to form. He was Slim Shady again. Kamikaze took to the charts and hit #1 in multiple ways, and we're still talking about everything that came from that album over a year later.
If it wasn't for Revival, I wouldn't have been able to make this album. So I'm good with it.
But does that mean he should be going back to his career? Not necessarily, for much like an aging quarterback who got that final Super Bowl win, he needs to accept that his last rodeo has come and it's time to move on. Because with his most recent album and certain other recent collaborations he did, he's proven that he still has it, and that he's one of the kings of rap still. What else is there for him to prove? True, he could keep popping out music and hits at his own pace and not feel the grind of the music world should he want to, but that's not really Eminem's style. He likes to prove people wrong. That's how he got into the business, and that's how he wants to leave it. Which brings us to newest album, Music to Get Murdered By could be his last. After the success of Kamikaze, and it was a success in all the ways that matter, many were wondering what would happen next. How would Eminem keep his momentum going to prove that this wasn't one last shot across the bow? The answer was that he would go on to do some collaborations, including one with Logic that was a big hit, as well as a song with Fat Joe on the artist's final album. And then in January 2020, he came out of nowhere again and dropped his latest album, Music to Get Murdered By. Not unlike Kamikaze, he dedicated some songs and lyrics to dissing some people who've had problems with him, including a large segment or two on Machine Gun Kelly. But he also dedicated some songs to speaking out on the dangers of our world, and got a lot of praise for having one song being against firearms violence, and the immediate success of Music to Get Murdered By has been strong. He's sold over 100,000 albums, and individual song sales are doing well, and he got #1 on the Billboard Top 200, setting a record for most consecutive #1 albums by an artist, which is great, but that doesn't mean it was a total hit. The reaction to the album as a whole is mixed.
I actually enjoyed it, like I said, except for the club attempts.
On one hand, many people agree that Eminem has some amazing songs on here, including Darkness, Godzilla, and a few others. But a lot of people also agree that some of these songs aren't the best, and some of them feel like extensions or rehashes of things he did in Kamikaze to try to be relevant again. To be clear, the sales speak for themselves, and the record still stands out, but Music to Be Murdered By did not do as well as Kamikaze in both immediate sales and critical reception. That's not to say that this was a flop, it wasn't by any means, but it could be a sign that the fire that was there for Kamikaze wasn't there for this one, and if he tries to replicate that again, it might just end him up in an even lower tier, and that's not what he wants. We've seen this all the time with movies and TV shows where one show was a hit and it gets sequels, spin-offs, reboots, etc. Eminem has always been a very self-aware guy. He needs to utilize that again in order to see that times are changing, and he needs to leave while he's still a worthy rapper and not just an aging one.
I have made albums that definitely probably would not be the top of my list.
Early life and success drove him to lose motivation. Early parts of life for Eminem were anything but easy, which tends to fit the mold of being a rap artist if we're being honest here. But for him, Marshall Mathers, life sucked pretty much from the beginning due to his father leaving the family and refusing to talk to Eminem later on in life, and his mother not being able to provide for them when he grew older, so thus they had to move around a lot so she couldn't hold down a job. Eminem has noted multiple times how this was a very dark time for him, mainly because he moved around up to 4 times a year depending on what his mom was doing or not doing with a job.
So you had to change schools every couple months?
Yeah, I would change schools 2-3 times a year, and that was probably the roughest part.
Moving is always hard, but when you're a kid and you're moving multiple times a year, it downright sucks, and by his own admission, school was like a torture to him because he always felt like an outsider no matter where he went. The only thing that he clung to was that he was good at one subject, English. I found that no matter how bad I was at school, and no matter how low my grades might have been at some times, I always was good at English. I just felt like I want to be able to have all these words at my disposal, in my vocabulary at times whenever I need to pull them out, you know? Somewhere they'll be stored, like locked away. He clung to that, and eventually during his time in Detroit, he went and joined the underground rap circuit, testing his mettle in rap battles and proving that he had skills.
He may have better clothes or whatever, but he can't do this like me. You know what I mean? He can't write what I'm writing right now.
He eventually would go and make his first mixtape, which was picked up and listened to by none other than Dr. Dre. Dre knew that Eminem had potential, so he honed it in for about 2 years, and the rest, as they say, is history. A history that has had a checklist of accomplishments a mile long, and technically are still growing. Have a #1 hit song? He's had that. Multiple times, in fact. Had a #1 hit album? He's had a large success of those. Make a lot of money? Eminem is currently valued at $230 million in net worth. Have a lot of awards? He's got Grammys galore and an army of other awards from various institutions. World records? He's got them, including being the record holder for the best-selling musical artist, all genres, in the world from 2000 to 2010. If you don't understand what that means in terms of all music all over the world, Eminem, a white rapper, was #1 for 10 years. Not even Drake, with the role he has been on recently, can claim that. Oh, and did I mention he got an Oscar for his music? Because he did. So when you look at this as a whole, you'll notice that Eminem has done so much in just under 20 years. He basically started his career in 2000. Most musicians would do anything for a fraction of this kind of success. Eminem earned it in the right way, and he did it on his time and his terms and his rules, which is more than enough reason to stop when you've done as much as him. Most times singers have to find the motivation to keep going, whether it's to make another #1 single or album, to beat out somebody to become the top dog in the music industry, or to prove the haters wrong. While Eminem could technically fight to do that first option, it's not going to have the same meaning as it did when he was starting out his career. I mean, his second album has 19 million sales, so what is there left for Eminem to accomplish that would make him feel good? What else does he truly need to accomplish? How much farther does he really need to push himself? I mean, sure, he could try and get another Grammy, his first in a while, but it'd just be another award on his wall, and what little validation it would give him would be just pressured to perform it again and see if he can keep going. The success of Eminem is undeniable, and it'll be in the history books for some time to come. So why not just let the rappers of today do their thing and let himself know that he was the inspiration for many of them? Well, there is a problem with that desire: mumble rap.
I stand by what I said on his first album, the album that preceded Kamikaze, which was Revival. It felt like a lot of contrived bullshit.
In the world of music, there are many who try and conform to what is popular, and there are those who try and break the mold and branch out and thus create subgenres of music, which at times is really cool, and sometimes it can alienate a lot of people who see this as a mockery of the genre that they love. For Eminem, that group of people is mumble rappers. Mumble rappers are a new breed of rap stars that have been going on for the last 5 years or so, and technically longer. It's hard to pin down when exactly they started. And for many of the legacy rappers, or as they like to refer to themselves, lyrical rappers, they don't like these new kids and their style.
But all them sound the same.
Mainly because for lyrical rappers, the songs that they themselves sing are meant to be stories. They're supposed to convey emotions and feelings and messages, and are meant to connect with listeners on many levels. But for mumble rappers, it seems as though they're more focused on trying to spark controversy and having very basic lyrics and beats. If you compare a classic Eminem song to something like a song from Lil Pump or 6ix9ine, you'll hear exactly what the difference is. And when it came to Kamikaze, Eminem loaded up every piece of ammo that he had against the entire mumble rapper genre and blasted them, all of them. This wasn't just a shot across the bow, it was a declaration of war. He wanted them gone and was willing to try and rap them out of existence. Granted, it didn't work, as many mumble rappers still do their thing today. But still, it was a powerful message. But how long can he keep focusing on trying to attack mumble rappers? He recently teamed up with Logic for a song that had plenty of shots against mumble rappers. Music to Get Murdered By didn't have as many shots against mumble rappers, but his feelings about them are still there, and it was a big part of his resurgence back in 2018. The problem though is that while it would be noble in some ways to continue to do his war against them, there are others that can do that in his stead. Plus, given that he's aging out and that mumble rap is still there, it would be a fight that would drone on and just annoy people with how it's still around. Something he knows all about out via recent events. He's old and tired of problems that the rap world brings, like the Eminem versus Nick Cannon situation. While 2020 may be going out great for Eminem on the whole, including performing Lose Yourself at the Oscars, 2019 ended very weirdly for him, and part of it is his fault, to be clear. You see, as we mentioned earlier, Eminem had been doing some collaborations between Kamikaze and Music to Be Murdered By, and one of them was with Fat Joe. They did a song that was literally meant to be the most offensive song ever, because the people Fat Joe asked to sing with him on the song were going to sound off on people and more. Well, Eminem decided to take the opportunity to go after Nick Cannon, of all people, but he didn't insult the fact that Cannon was a TV star or a rapper, but rather he dredged up old wounds by talking about both of their relationships with legendary singer Mariah Carey. Eminem dated her once and it didn't end well, and then Nick Cannon married her, had kids with her, and then the two split up. But Nick still cares for Mariah, while Eminem still loathes what she tried to do to him. She insulted him big time in a song, and so in the Fat Joe collaboration, Eminem noted that Mariah, let's just say, neutered Nick Cannon, and that Eminem wouldn't have let that happen during his time with her. Nick Cannon fired back by bringing up both how old Eminem is and his daughter Haley, which got Eminem to fire back, and then Cannon, and then Eminem, then Cannon again. Usually this kind of feud is good for the publicity of the rappers, except both of these guys are past their primes, especially Cannon, and people really didn't want to see how these two went at it. It was like old man bowl, if you will, and people were criticizing both of them for making this happen in any way. We know Eminem can throw down, but when you're picking on feuds from years ago to try and get the fire going again, it's not a good look, and people were begging for this to stop, and thankfully it did, but the fact that it happened at all wasn't exactly the best thing ever. Enough is enough. He's done. There is such a thing as taking a risk too far, and Eminem has learned that the hard way via his time at the top. So as I noted before, from 2000 to 2010, Eminem was the best-selling artist in the world in the entire genre that is music.
I'm out to accomplish a lot of things, and I want to have a voice in hip-hop.
However, from 2011 to about 2018, the hype wasn't as powerful. His music was still good to an extent, but it was clear that something had changed in Eminem. Mainly, he had a bout with substance abuse, and it almost cost him his life. He even admitted that if it was just a few hours later that he was taken to the hospital, he would be gone. Why does that matter? Well, after the event, he went through a major transformation, not just in the health sense, but in the mental sense. He admitted that before, he wouldn't be conscious of the way his songs had affected people. The song stands out as an example of this. But after the event, his outlook on music started to change, and thus his style of rap. He was still doing what he did best, but he did it in a way that was more positive or encouraging, such as with his album Recovery. And it did good, mainly because people were happy to support him and his return to music. And then he made a couple more albums along with this line of thinking. But fans started to think that this wasn't the music that they wanted to hear from Eminem. And by the time his album Revival came out in 2017, fans just weren't having it. Nor were the critics, and Eminem was ticked. Not because fans weren't liking his music, but because of why they weren't liking his music. The fans gave fuel to his rivals in the rap world, and so they started attacking Eminem as well. This led to Eminem going on a hiatus, with no one knowing what exactly he was doing or what he was going to do, and so on and so forth. The result was Kamikaze, and then he went on another hiatus that led to Music to Be Murdered By. He's pushing himself to make music, and usually that's a good thing, but if it leads to a bad thing, if it leads to him continually stretching things to try and be better, to be like he was before, that's not a good look, and that doesn't always make quality music. He's proven the haters wrong twice now with his last two albums. It's time to stop before he breaks something else inside of him, something he can't fix. He has other things he can focus on now and be happy with. Why risk all of that? The end. When it comes to careers, Eminem has had one for the history books. He's had almost every kind of accomplishment you can think of, and he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars to boot. He's got a daughter that he's very proud of, a radio station that does very well, he does charity work in Detroit, and on it goes. There is a time when it's okay to call it quits, to understand that there isn't anything else to do in the field that you are in. Eminem has not had a perfect life or a perfect career, but he's proved doubters wrong more times than not, and set a standard for what rap music is supposed to be. Given all of that, it's time to take a bow. Thank everyone who has supported him throughout these 20 long years, and then get to the next phase of his life. He's earned the rest, and should rap fall, which is doubtful, no one in their right minds would blame him for it. And there you have it, a look at the long and extremely successful career of Eminem, and why it's time to hang it up and call it a night. Do you think he will though? Or do you think Eminem will continue rapping like it's still 2000? Let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to subscribe. I'm King Trending, and I'll see you next time.